ekonomiya ng bayan kong sinta. Milyon ang walang trabaho dahil sa COVID na ito. Idagdag mo pa ang West Philippine Sea, mga bagyong magtitindi, kawawa ang bayan, kawawa si Juan. Mabigat ang problema ng susunod na Pangulo, kaya piliin nyo dapat ay may talino. May kakayahan siyang mamuno, usilag ang kanyang puso para sa inang bayan. Inang bayan. Ang presidente ko'y may utak, may paninindigan.
Hi guys, welcome to this episode of our Facts First podcast. For this episode, we are joined by someone whose name is very familiar to all of us, specifically her surname. But later on, we will talk more deeply about her relationship with this very popular politician with a very popular surname. I'd like to introduce to you first Miss NUELLE Duterte. NUELLE, thank you for joining us on this podcast.
Hi, thank you for asking me.
Okay, I'm not sure whether you're happy with that introduction, but first,
No, that was pretty good. Thank you.
I've been monitoring your posts since 2016 or even earlier, if I'm not mistaken. So nakikita ko na very interesting yung mga posts mo about our sitting president now in the Philippines. But before we go to those issues, I'd like to ask you first, tell us something about yourself and how are you related to President Duterte?
Something about myself. Well, I grew up in Davao City. I lived there for my first 24 years of life. Studied there, finished medical school there. And after that, I left for Manila and then the US. I'm related to him because he's my dad's brother.
Your dad's brother? Your father mo, younger or older than the
Yeah.
president?
Yeah, the president is the oldest of the boys.
Okay. So, ilan kayo magkakapatid?
Ako? I was my mother's only child. My dad has a son now, so I have a half brother.
Okay. So in your case, when was the last time that you saw the president? Physically?
I don't actually remember. It was definitely way before I turned 10, maybe 8,
Okay.
maybe younger.
This was during a visit here, when you visited here.
No, I grew up in Davao, so I grew up like maybe 5 blocks away from Lola Soling's house. So that's where I would see some of the cousins, relatives. That's where I usually saw him anyway. So that was the place that I remember seeing him last.
And you are now based in New Zealand, right?
Correct.
Okay. What do you do there in New Zealand?
I work as a psychiatrist.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Una of the Duterte administration. Diba describe mo na horrifying yung decision niya to run? How would you describe his administration so far?
Depressing and exhausting for the people, I think. I mean, I know some people may not feel it. For some people do, they just don't want to admit it. Pero the sense that I get is it's been really depressing and exhausting for a lot.
Within the family ba, marami ring mulat like you about what exactly is happening in the Philippines under Duterte? Mas marami na ba yung mulat kesa rin sa, um, alam mo na,
My mother's side, yeah. Mhm.
your mother's side?
Mhm.
So, for example, in the 2022 election campaign, parang what would be your pitch? What would you tell the voters regarding Duterte's candidate or perhaps even himself?
I think, well, I'm not really sure what I would say about him yet. So far, what I want to do now, well, not that she's actually declared her candidacy, but I would like to push forward the other option, kind of giving light to what the other option can do, what the other option has done, what can be better instead of what's been going on. So sometimes kasi criticisms just are very limiting kasi hanggang criticism lang sila. I mean, hanggang criticism lang. Pero if you provide an alternative option that may be more useful for people.
So basically, to scrutinize the other candidates as alternatives.
Yeah.
May mga lumapit na ba sa'yo lately na perhaps opposition or they would want to tap you to help in their own campaign?
Not opposition candidates. Nobody really bothers me. But I participate sometimes in sharing content, but it's of my own volition. Nobody actually makes me or asks me to. It's just something that I like doing. So I like promoting Lenny because I really believe that she can be a better option. So that's what I do.
Speaking of Lenny Robredo, what do you think of the way the president has been treating her?
Not really unusual in the sense that that's kind of how he treats. That's kind of the way he dismisses women who are not important to him, or actually sometimes even the ones who are important to him. He doesn't really have a very high opinion of women.
So yung magiging misogynistic talagang ganun siya? That's how we know him?
Yes.
Okay. Very depressing in discussion, especially if you talk about the things that have been happening since 2016. So,
yep, very depressing.
In a way, yung feeling mo na you are a Duterte, but definitely you are not a Duterte.
I'm a Duterte, but I'm not his kind of Duterte.
Okay. Pero ito na lang, para medyo we end on a higher note or even optimistic note. Kasi nga, election next year, no? Pero is there still hope in you or somehow optimism? Somehow voters would wake up and realize na not go for a candidate simply because he says all the right things or the right words. Kahit pa paano, it's better to really scrutinize whether this person is capable or track record. Do you still have that hope in you?
I think there's always hope. I'm a naturally hopeful person. So I think there's always hope. But also remember, we have to remember that not everybody is on social media. You know, not everybody pays attention to what's going on with Congress or the Senate, you know, all these hearings, whatnot. So we have to remember that there's hope, I think, but we also have to be realistic in the sense that kung gusto natin ng better option and gusto natin manalo ang better option, kailangan nating i-advertise ang better option outside of social media, on the ground, in the streets.
Okay. Noelle Duterte, thank you for joining us on this podcast. We appreciate it. Maraming salamat. And ingat ka dyan sa New Zealand.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So that's it for this episode of our Facts First podcast. This has been your host, Christian Esguera. You can watch this episode on YouTube. Just click the subscribe and like button. Of course, you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, and Stitcher. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.
Siya'y tunay na